Hello, 3, 2, 1, and we are live. Well, I am anyway. Have to wait for y'all to catch up with me. Still got a couple minutes before we rock and roll. Literally, with Beatles, of course. Beatles all the way. Yes, this is my um, this is my Beatles trivia stage, Beatles trivia set, right? Just exclusively to celebrate the Fab Four. Absolutely. So, whoops, let's see. We haven't been on very long yet, and we still have 2 minutes. So, I don't want to say anything important that I would have to remember to repeat. Or, and what can I say? Only got a couple minutes to wait. So I don't see anybody out there. There's a little, and I do mean little, icon on the screen that shows well, it's like the symbol for an eyeball, like that with the circle and symbol of an eyeball, and next to it a number. So right now that number's hitting on 0, as in nobody's watching. What can I say? Just one more minute to go. And it's kind of weird because I'm going to start rolling, whether anyone's out there or not, because this can also be viewed after the fact in its entirety, which is great because, like, if you arrive late and miss the beginning, well, you can catch it later. Or if you miss the whole thing, you just watch it at your convenience, because this goes out over to a couple of platforms. Usually I run it on Facebook and YouTube and X, the former Twitter. YouTube seems to be where the platform that most people watch it on. And I do have the ability for chat on YouTube and on Facebook. But what is always interesting to me, what's kind of funny, is I can see all the chat, but you can't. If you're on Facebook, you'll only see the chat generated from other people watching it on Facebook. And if you are on YouTube, you'll only see YouTube generated chat posts. So kind of interesting. But anyway, so it is 2 o'clock show time. Let me wet the whistle here before I begin. Could do something a little different today. This little book, little golden book, is so cute. It was just released November, this past November. It hasn't been out very long, but apparently there's over like 200 of these little books for every occasion. Now on the back, it's kind of cute. Does anybody remember the Pokey Little Puppy? My kids had that book. We had that book once upon a time. But the other thing that I found interesting on here is all the other music stars that are on here. Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, Bruce Springsteen, Julie Andrews, Dolly Parton, Beyonce, Queen Elizabeth II, she's not music, and the Bee Gees. Of course, the little puppy isn't music either. But anyway, the Beatles are. So, and I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to read this to you because it has a lot of facts. It's the general story of the Beatles. So it's a nice little refresher. And I also have a different set of trivia questions that we haven't used before. So this will be a good prelude to that because they're not multiple choice. It's just question and answer. So, anywho, here we go. The Beatles, the little golden book. I think most of us had these little golden books when they were kids, right? I know I did. I liked them. Okay, so here we go. Here's the first page in our story. I'll let you look at this for a minute and then I'm going to read it. It says, John, let me see something here. Hold. Okay. Work, yes. Okay. John, Paul, George, and Ringo were four friends from Liverpool who rocked the world as the Beatles. Each year, millions of visitors come to the bustling city in northwest England to learn about the band and see where their musical dream began. Here's a close up. Oh, new pictures? Yeah. Okay. Hey, John Winston Lennon was born in Liverpool on, I'm trying to get this right, on October 9th, 1940. His middle name came from England's prime minister at the time, Winston Churchill. So his name was John Winston Lennon. That's what was on his birth certificate. When John's parents split up, he went to live with his Aunt Mimi. John spent many hours in his room drawing cartoons, writing stories, and playing his guitar. The guitar was a gift from his mother, Julia, who died when John was 17. Paul McCartney, he was born on June 18th, 1942. Do you believe he's an 82-year-old rocker? Oh, my word. Hey, Judy. Hello, hello. Paul McCartney was born on June 18th, 1942, into a house that was filled with music. His father was a cotton salesman who played piano and trumpet in his own jazz band. Paul turned down music lessons and instead taught himself how to play the piano and the guitar. Like John, Paul also lost his mother when he was young. But John and Paul shared something else that would bring the two together, and that was a love of music. Hey, Judy, I am reading this this cute little book that was just came out in November because it has basic facts of the Beatles, and then I have a different set of questions I want to try. They're not multiple choice; they're just question and answers. Okay, here are the illustrations. One summer day, One summer day, Paul dropped by a festival to hear a band called the Quarrymen. Started by John, the Quarrymen played rock and roll music and jazzy tunes called skiffle. During the band's break, Paul played a few songs on the guitar. John liked what he heard and asked him to join the band. The Quarrymen had kids dancing all over Liverpool. When they needed a third guitarist, Paul suggested his friend George Harrison. Born on February 25th, 1943, George fell in love with rock and roll after hearing Elvis Presley play Heartbreak Hotel. When he got his first guitar, George practiced so much that his fingers were sore. Pretty cool. Yes, indeed. All that practice paid off. At the age of 15, George auditioned for the Quarrymen on top of a double-decker bus. The band had found their new guitarist. Now all they needed was a new name. One of the hottest groups at the time was the Crickets. John thought it would be cool for their band to have a bug name as well. Guitarist Stuart Sutcliffe suggested Beatles, or Beatles spelled with the A. With their new name came a new goal. The Beatles would become famous. Or, as they like to say, they'd go to the toppermost of the poppermost. I love that saying. John said that. Here's some more pictures. More drawings, rather, I should say. The Beatles were still far from famous when they were invited to perform in Hamburg. John, Paul, George, Stewart, and their drummer Pete Best jumped at the chance to bring their music overseas. The band played every day of the week, sometimes for as long as 8 hours. After months of rocking Hamburg, the Beatles left Germany with new mop top haircuts, more fans, and their first recorded single, My Bonnie. They also left without Stewart, who stayed in Hamburg to study art. Stewart had a friend called Astrid in Hamburg, and she was the one, I believe, who gave the Beatles their trademark mop top haircuts. The Beatles were back in Liverpool and back to performing at small clubs. Fans stood wall to wall to hear them play. The band's popularity was growing. All they needed was a recording contract and a little help from a friend called Brian Epstein. Dear Brian. As the Beatles' new manager, Brian got right to work. First, he changed the band's look. Instead of leather jackets and jeans, John, Paul, George, and Pete would perform in suits and ties. And the boys were expected to act like polite gentlemen and always be on time for their shows. Hmm. These Johnnies are good. I like them. They remind me of, did you ever see the Beatles cartoon? That was on years and years ago. God, I don't remember. A couple decades, not this century, I don't think. Okay, John and Paul got to work too, teaming up to write new songs. John scribbled his songs on random scraps of paper. Their writing styles were different, but they led to catchy tunes such as She Loves You and I Want to Hold Your Hand. The Beatles had great new songs, but still no recording contract. Finally, a music producer called George Martin invited John, Paul, George, and Pete to audition in his studio. After hearing them play Love Me Do, he offered the Beatles a contract and a suggestion: find a new drummer. I did not know that. I did not know that. I didn't know that that came from George Martin when they first got their contract. Wow. Saying goodbye to Pete wasn't easy, but the Beatles would soon say hello to an awesome drummer from Liverpool who called himself Ringo Starr. Born Richard Starkey on July 7th, 1940, Ringo spent many months in the hospital as a young teenager. To pass the time, he started drumming, grabbing whatever he could to bang on his bedside cabinet. Cute picture. Years later, the drummer with many rings on his fingers had the right look and the right beat for the Beatles. By 1963, Beatlemania had spread throughout England. Kids come their Beatle haircuts. They carried Beatle lunchboxes to school and read Beatles magazines. When fans thought they knew the band's favorite candy, they showered the stage with jelly beans while they sang. In fact, the poor Beatles got pelted with jelly beans. Hmm. Along with the fame came a new nickname. They were called the Fab Four because they were so fabulous. So I'm done here. Right. Okay. The Beatles are climbing up the entertainment social ladder, right? Hey, cuz, Sherilyn, what's up, girl? Hello, hello. How are you? Okay, so the Beatles now sang at fancy London theaters and even performed for the royal family. What could be bigger than that? Brian had an idea. The Beatles would go to America. So the first step would be New York, the first stop would be New York City to perform on a popular TV show. That was the Ed Sullivan Show. Then off to Washington, D.C. for the first concert in the U.S. They had it in a stadium. To Brian's surprise, the Beatles were more worried than excited. Their song, I Want to Hold Your Hand, was a hit in America, but they were worried. Would they be a hit? Let's see, one more page, two more, three more. Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah, this is where I experienced. That was me right there. Okay, that was me. About that age too. Yes, that was me. On February 7th, 1964, the Beatles arrived at New York's JFK International Airport. The Fab Four didn't know what to expect until they were greeted by thousands of fans screaming their names and waving welcome signs. The Beatles had arrived in America, and so had Beatlemania. That Sunday, 73 million Americans, 73 million and one, tuned in to meet the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. In Washington, D.C., they played an arena packed with fans. John, Paul, George, and Ringo had made it to the toppermost of the poppermost. And that was just the beginning. Ta-da! For the next 6 years, the Beatles would give the world over 200 hit songs. They would be honored by their queen and star in 5 movies. The Beatles would become the best selling band in music history, but through all their triumphs and fame, John, Paul, George, and Ringo would always be 4 friends from Liverpool who made their dreams come true. Pretty cool, right? Yeah, this was a nice little book. Do you hear the music in the background? That's their new song. Isn't it weird? The Beatles have a new song just released, right? Right here. Now and then. Now and then. The CD has Now and Then and Love Me Do. The now being Now and Then. And the then being Love Me Do. But it's playing in the background there. Good old Alexa. Okay. So as promised, I have a new set of questions instead of the normal books and a deck of cards here. The reason why I read that book, because it was short, but because it gave general information These trivia questions are not like our normal ones where, you have multiple choice. So at least it gets you thinking in the right direction. These are just question and answer. Okay? So let's see. And hopefully this helped us. I think it did already. Because the first question, name the city of the birth of the Beatles in 1960. What is the city that was the birth of the Beatles in 1960? I know y'all know, right? Liverpool. Right, Liverpool. Question number 2. Name the 2 prime songwriters of the band. Do we know? Hey, Martin, welcome, welcome. Liverpool. Got it. Look at that. You jumped right in with their answer. Hello. Hello to you. Oh. I have to. All right. I have to tell you guys, I'm saying hi to Martin and McCartney and Lennon. Yeah, you got it. The next 2 prime songwriters. I explained before that you guys are this is going out on to Facebook and to YouTube. So, and there's chat, right? So I can see both. I can see Facebook and I can see YouTube, but you guys can't. You guys, like Sherilyn, you can only see yourself right now because I think you're the only one on Facebook. And then Martin and Judy are on YouTube, so they can see each other. So it just makes it kind of weird when I start talking to somebody that you can't see. Anyway, all right. Next question. Name the original bass guitarist of the group. Who is the original bass guitarist of the group? The original bass guitarist. I think it's the one with the girlfriend. No, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Okay. Stuart Sutcliffe, guys. Stuart Sutcliffe. He was in the book. All right, so Stuart Sutcliffe was the original bass guitarist. Yeah, Martin, you got it. Stuart Sutcliffe. Okay, so who was the original drummer? Who got replaced? Who was that? The original drummer. Who was replaced? Who asked? Pete Best. You got it. Good morning. Yeah, Pete Best. And I knew that something happened and Ringo was the better drummer. He'd been more experienced, and actually Ringo had been playing drums with Rory Calhoun and the somethings, I forget. But he was already playing at the time. But I didn't know that it was at the suggestion of George Martin. I didn't know that. So that was an interesting tidbit of information. Okay, next. Who name the drummer who joined the Beatles in 1962? The drummer who joined in 1962. Anybody? That would be Ringo Starr. Name the famous manager of the Beatles who is referred to as the fifth Beatle. The famous manager of the Beatles who is referred to as the fifth Beatle. That was come on. Come on. Let's come on, guys. It's not fair. I have the answers in front of me. Plus the fact that these are very easy answers. They're very easy questions. They will probably begin to get a bit more difficult in a minute or two, but starting off. Plus, that little book was really helpful with basic information. Well, the fifth Beatle, okay, wasn't it Brian Epstein? He would have loved to be a Beatle. He would have loved to be a Beatle with John Lennon for sure. Brian was just too reserved, right? Came from the upper crust. Anyway, that is who the fifth Beatle was. Brian. Oh, Judy, you're on both. You're on Facebook and YouTube. Good, 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 good. I think, for so many months that I've been doing using this platform, it always showed up on YouTube as scheduled, but Facebook was hit or miss, and they would have issues. I'd get error messages from Facebook, and then this platform, SteamYard, they'd send me a message saying, it's not us, it's Facebook, but they're fixing it. But anyway, I discovered a little something that I could do that seems to be working before each tour. I reconnect Facebook and particularly and YouTube to the StreamYard program. So great, yay, it's working. Okay, the drummer who joined the Beatles in 1962. Well, obviously that was Ringo Starr because he's the only other drummer that the Beatles ever had. Okay. Uh, oh, here we go. Oh, well, can you name the band's producer? The band's producer. Judy is working on Facebook, right? Oh. Sherilyn, you still on Facebook? Did it bounce you out or anything? Oh, yes, no, maybe so. Well, we will see. All right, so the band's producer, guys. Yeah, you got it, Martin. You got it, George Martin. Yes, indeed. Okay, now, what was the title of the Beatles' debut single? What was the title of their first single? Now, I don't know. Okay, keep in mind that um, the UK and the US had different songs released at different times, and they would have occasionally the same album, but it would have different titles, across the sea and then here. So I don't know. I don't remember where I downloaded this from, so I don't know if it's US based or UK based. But anyway, I guess it depends on what you know about the answer. And Martin's got it. Love Me Do. Love Me Do was their first single. Love Me Do, single. Their first single, their first little record. When was the debut single of the Beatles launched? Is the next question. When was the debut single of the Beatles launched? And it's looking for a date, the date that it was launched. Any ideas? Yeah, this is kind of a toughie. Okay, so I'm not thinking about where the launch was, but it had to be right after they got that first contract, right? With George Martin producing. So anyway, that was on October 5th, 1962, that it was launched. Okay, next question, number 10. What word was invented to describe the hysteria that surrounded the English rock band in the 60s? What word was invented to describe the hysteria that surrounded the English rock band in the 60s? Anybody? Beatlemania, you got it. Absolutely. Beatlemania. Hey, Martin. Okay, next question. Who came up with the idea to name the band as Beatles? We just had that in that little golden book, too. Anybody? Who came up with the idea to name the Beatles? I'm going to cheat. I'm going to cheat. Who came up with this idea? Let's see. Hold on, back up. There it is. It devoted a whole 2-page to it, right? Oh, no, that was the nickname. That's not Beatles. Yeah. I know we addressed it in here. Well, I wanted to read it in here, but that's all right. So the answer was, oh, Judy says Liverpool. No, the idea to come up with the name Beatles, the answer is Stu Sutcliffe. Stu Sutcliffe. I guess John came up with the idea. That's why I was looking back, but it must have been a collaboration. Here we go. Name the band that Ringo Starr was in before the Beatles. Ooh, I had it wrong. I had only one word in the band right. Name the band that Ringo Starr was in before the Beatles. Anybody? Remember, I was saying he he'd been playing. He'd been the better guitarist. What did I say? Oh, I said Rory Calhoun, but it's that Calhoun isn't right. Anybody? Anybody up there? Okay. It would be Rory Storm and the Hurricanes. Rory Storm and the Hurricanes. Okay. Let's see. Rory Storm and the Hurricanes. Okay, let's do one more. Name the Indian sitar player with whom George Harrison collaborated. Anybody know that one? Name the Indian sitar player with whom George Harrison collaborated. Remember, they did the benefit for Bangladesh, the concert for Bangladesh. That's it. The concert for Bangladesh. Oh my goodness. George Harrison had all these people participate in the concert to raise money for Bangladesh, this starting country in India. And he had oh man, Eric Clapton performing, Leon Russell, and I think maybe Willie Nelson. But anyway, he also had Ravi Shankar, and that's the answer to the question. Ravi Shankar. And let's do one more question. Listen, can you hear the music in the background? Do you remember the group's only single between 1963 and 1969 that did not reach the top of the charts? Do you remember the group's only single between 1963 and 1969 that didn't make the charts? Yes, it was one of Ringo's, Judy. One of Ringo's songs, but which one? Anybody? How about the one that we were just listening to? Yellow Submarine. That's interesting that Yellow Submarine didn't make, well, it said it didn't reach the top of the charts. So maybe it got on the charts, but apparently it never went to number one. So sad, cool song. Anywho, well, it is time for me to rock and roll. We'll come back to this next time, 2 weeks, right? Okay, folks. Well, I time for me to go. I have a class at 4 that I need to uh, finish some homework for. Okay, see you guys. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for playing Beatles trivia. Um, learn something all the time. I did. I learned about George Martin telling the Beatles to fire Pete Best. On that note, bye.